My name is Caitlin Everett, and I am doing an informative speech on christening gowns today. When you look at this gown, what do you see? Some people may see it as a gown that's been passed down, that's very old, or some may just see it as a good find from a thrift store haul. When I look at this gown, I see a special garment that's been in our family for almost 70 years. The act of baptizing your infant may be an important part of family tradition, but these beautiful gowns symbolize so much more. After some research, I gained knowledge on that changed my perception on the history of christening gowns, and after today, I hope to give you the information to do the same. What exactly is a christening gown? As defined by Sarah Jean Ballard of The Fashionable Housewife in her article, they are beautifully crafted dresses that can be worn by either boys or girls on their baptism or christening day. Part of tradition is that the gown is white to symbolize purity, joy, and new life. Much like wedding gowns, the christening gown was to be of the highest quality that the family could afford. According to Deborah Felker of the Irish Fantasy. Historically, christening gowns weren't always the outfit of choice for baptism ceremonies. Today's tradition of wearing a gown actually evolved from babies wearing swaddling bands. Swaddling bands were just fabric of any sort, usually linen, that were wrapped around the baby and changed throughout the day. The best known story of swaddling gowns is that of Mary, the mother of Jesus Christ, when she gave birth. Luke 2:7 says, and she brought forth her firstborn son and wrapped him in swaddling clothes. In the days of Jesus, young couples that were married would have their hands wrapped together and tied with bands of fabric, and that's where the saying, tying the knot, comes from. Later, when they would have children together, those strips would be used as swaddling clothes. These swaddling clothes are what the infants would wear every day, and they were baptized in. According to Ballard, there is evidence that swaddling clothes were used for baptism up to the 15th century. Sometime after this period is when baptism clothing evolved. According to an article written for Huggies by Fran Malloy, by the mid-17th century, many christening traditions were already established, including wearing gowns. Infant mortality was very high, so infants were baptized as early as possible to ensure that their souls would go to heaven. For the ceremony, babies would wear long white formal robes, and whether the family was wealthy or not. When it comes to christening an infant, there are many different cultural traditions. For the Catholic, Felker says that the gowns worn by females are considered one of the 3 white dresses, each of which is worn for 3 major rites of passage in their life. 1 for her christening or baptism, 1 for her first communion or confirmation, and then the last one being her wedding gown. The Scottish have their babies sleep in the gown the night before for good luck. They also pin a slice of shortbread to the gown and then give it to an unmarried woman to eat during that day. Folklore says that that night her future husband would appear in her dreams. Some families use their wedding gowns to make the christening gown for their children. Some families also embroider the names of the children that wear it at the bottom of the gown. Faith Andrew Bedford writes a story about her family tradition of stitching the initials and dates of birth in the lining of their family gown. I love reading about all the traditions of different cultures. My family has this special gown that has been in our family for 68 years. Our gown is a traditional long white dress made of linen. It has some smocking here with lace around the edges, and it also has a jacket and a bonnet to match. My great-grandmother purchased the outfit for her first grandson, which was my uncle, to wear in 1951. My grandmother now is the keeper of the gown, and it has a list inside of all of the names of the babies and the dates for everyone that's worn it since then in our family. I would like to conclude with these thoughts. Christening gowns are beautiful gowns of symbolism. Although you may be able to afford one for each of your children that you have, it is more unique and acceptable to have one to pass down for all to wear in the family. Christening gowns are special, unique, and traditional, all of which make them beautiful heirlooms. Whether your family follows this tradition or not, please consider saving your baby's christening gown as a family heirloom to pass down for future generations to come. Thank you.